Welcome to Infinite Presents Professional Perspectives, the web series where we speak with industry leaders about the latest trends, regulations, and happenings in the New York metropolitan area. This week's guest is Patty Clark. Thanks for joining us, Patty.
Thank you, Denise. I really appreciate the invitation.
Patty, I'm excited about aviation questions, so we're going to jump right into it. Patty, with the impact that COVID-19 has had on travel and tourism, how does that affect the aviation industry going forward? But where was the aviation industry prior to COVID-19?
That's a really good question, Denise. If I could, can I start by giving the audience an assignment? So when you're trolling the internet, at some point, go to the Harry Truman Presidential Library and look up his remarks from July 31st, 1948. It was the opening of Idlewild Airport, which was eventually 15 years later renamed JFK. If you picture, it was the end of World War II. The United Nations had just selected New York City as their permanent home. And the airport, if I could just read one piece of it, this now new international airport was actually the linchpin in helping the world maintain peace. And that is not the image that people have of when you ask them about going, air travel.
Right.
It's a pain in the neck to get there. It's a pain in the neck to be on the security line. And now it's a pain in the neck to socially distance. But in 1948, that airport, according to Harry Truman, will encourage foreign travel. It will promote international understanding, which makes peace. We in the United States believe the way to get along with your neighbor is to know them well. We want to know our neighbors all over the world. We want them to know us. And we favor the greatest possible freedom in international travel and communication because we know knowledge leads to understanding. And that's definitely not an image that we have of the role of an airport, but that continues to be the role of the airport. And so air travel did bloom as he predicted. And in 2019, aviation had, in terms of air travel, had its best year ever, 925 million passengers just in the United States alone. In 2019, the third largest export of the United States was aircraft engines, and aircraft parts. So commercial aviation generated 10 million jobs, well-paying jobs. It contributed to 1.7 trillion with a T into the economy. So you throw out these numbers, and sometimes I feel like an adult in a Charlie Brown cartoon, like wah wah wah. But I'll take it more regionally. I live in the New York area, and my CN company put out statistics about the value of visitor spend. Now, that's not all air travelers, but value of visitor spend in the New York City is $35 billion. And international travelers, which I will say largely come from the airport, some come from Canada, but largely from the airport, they contribute half of that, yet they're only 1/5 of the visitors to New York. So the international traveler is hugely important, creating, and that those tourism jobs are the hotels, people occupying Broadway shows, seats, people going to Met and Yankee games, the restaurateurs, the hoteliers. All of those jobs are dependent upon those travelers. And so when you take it all the way back and think about, it's not just the airlines and the airports, but it's the manufacturers, it's the people providing souvenirs, all sorts of things, all sorts of jobs. If the tourism industry was a separate industry in New York City, it would rank as the 7th largest industry. So its importance to everyone, whether or not you ever get on an airplane, is huge. It's tremendous. And so we went from 2019 of being the third largest generation of exports to being the most number of travelers in the history of aviation. We had a great January and February. And then by April, nationally, we were down 96% of
Wow.
traffic over 19 levels. And Denise, those 4% that were traveling were largely first responders who were leaving the safety of their home to come to hotspots like New York. And it was repatriation passengers, which are people who were stuck in Europe, stuck in Asia, and were trying to get back to their home base. And so it literally, the number of people traveling was almost effectively zero. Uptick in traffic during some of the holidays. We're still going to wind up ending the year around 63% of 2019. Cargo, however, did very well, because now we're moving the vaccine. We had been moving the PPE before that. So the third quarter of 2019 was the highest numbers in cargo ever. So you did have a piece of the industry benefited, if you will, from COVID, but most of the industry was really harmed. We're very fortunate. Congress responded, and between airports and airlines, airlines got grants and loans of $48 billion. Airports got grants of $10 billion. Sadly, we're looking for more because our losses are just tremendous at this point. But when you talk about recovery and how do we get back to where we were, it's really three parts. The first part is you got to stop the spread of this virus. Passenger survey after passenger survey, there are people traveling now and people feel confident traveling. Airports and airlines have put a tremendous amount of money into this, improved sanity and health conditions within their spaces. But the large majority still are saying, I want to travel, I'm going to travel, but I'm not ready yet. I need more people. I need myself to be vaccinated, and I need more people to be vaccinated. And that then will start to open up borders, et cetera. So stopping the virus is number one. Two is restoring passenger traffic. And that is something that there's been consensus on for some things, that domestic travel is going to come back faster than international. And it's also not going to happen overnight. I think people largely agree to that. We're not even going to have that immediate spike of pent-up demand, and then it builds up from there. This is going to be a lot slower. The part where there's disagreement is you have organizations like the Airlines for America, which is the trade association for the large airlines. Mm-hmm. They predict that we'll be back to 2019 levels by 2023, 2024. The FAA is taking a much more pessimistic view, and they're saying it's not going to happen till between 24 and 28. So I believe that is too pessimistic, and that it's going to happen a lot faster than that, probably more aligned with the A4A. But the third piece to it too is you can't just look at the passenger numbers coming back, because that doesn't tell the whole story, because the airlines won't be in recovery. Even they'll have full planes, they can't add another passenger, and they'll still not be recovering the money. Think about it, this year, 2020, they took on $67 billion additional debt. They already had debt of over 100 billion, and they just took on another 67 billion. That's going to take years to retire. The interest payment alone is going to be, something on their books. It's going to take a lot of their time and attention, and limit their ability, quite honestly, to reinvest, to rehire, et cetera. So, so they're going to be doing these cost reductions, but at the same time, they've added costs, operational costs, in keeping the aircraft safe for their passengers. So their cash burn is still not at a break-even level, and it isn't going to be till maybe the end of this year. So until all of those things happen, the industry won't be fully recovered. Because one of the things we need the airlines to do is to be in a position to take delivery of new aircraft from the manufacturers. Right. So it's very complex. but it will come back. I think that's that you have to keep your eye on the prize. It will come back. I have no Ouija board or crystal ball that I can tell you when it's going to come back. I do believe it is not as pessimistic as the FAA is predicting.
Thank you, Patty. While we're talking about challenges in aviation, how important do you believe it is to have diversity in aviation?
It is so important. I have to say, coming from the Port Authority, I was very proud of the Port Authority's record in terms of women directors and women general managers and women in charge of the CFO. I came from a place where I saw a lot of women in authority, but as I examined the industry, the same is not true. 4% of pilots are females. Somehow, very early on, somehow we're sending signals to females that this is not a job for you. Well, yes, it is. It is a job for you. You look at, there's a number of institutions, whether they be academic, well-regarded consulting groups, think tanks. They've all done studies that look at the composition of boards and organization, and every single one of them will say, the more diverse your organization is, from the board to the C-suite to the rank and file, the more profitable, the more efficient, the better you are. That diversity of voice, diversity of perspective, just looking at the world through a different prism, it just helps. It makes it better. And so there's an organization, Wall Street Journal, Leanin, and McKinsey have done a survey. I think it's their 6th year, 68,000 people over 300 companies. And one of the things that they have found is that in transportation specifically, not aviation specifically, but transportation, that the entry level is effectively 50-50, a split between men and women. 47% standard deviation is 50-50. At the first promotion to management, women go down to 37%. And then it goes down, then the gap gets bigger, and it gets bigger till at the C-suite, it's like 12%, 13. And for women of color, it's single digits. It's always less. And that's just gender, and then race when it comes to the women of color. So we're starting out together, but then something happens almost immediately that men advance faster. There's a book actually by Katie Kai, who is a BBC reporter, who woke up one day and realized that she was raising her one son differently than her 3 daughters. And as a reporter, she investigated, and she found that a lot of the initial issue is a confidence level. And one of the things that she had found, academic research, that if a job posting comes out and there are 10 qualifications, if a woman looks at it and doesn't have all 10, won't even apply. If a man has 3, oh yeah, I could do that. So it's just this level of confidence that is just, it's not the whole problem, but it's part of the problem. So I'm really committed to doing things to change this. I don't know how, I don't know what, but I'm going to work on this, because it's you've seen the statistics even from the COVID, and women are leaving the workforce.
Yes.
It is harming women more than it's harming men. And that's something that we all need to take a look at and ask why and what we can do about it.
All right. I think, oh my goodness, Patty, I'm just so excited to have you. All of your answers are just, this is perfect lead into you. I heard you have you've got a very exciting received a very exciting honor recently for Vaughn College. Can you tell me a little bit about Vaughn College and a little bit about your honor? Because it's really exciting.
Oh, thank you, Denise. It is exciting. Vaughn College is a small college located in Queens, New York, right across the street from LaGuardia Airport. It had started life as a place where aircraft mechanics went to get training. And over time, it has morphed into, it has an associate degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree in engineering, technology, aviation, airport management. They train controllers. They train people who can actually work on the planning and engineering for airports. And it's a wonderful school that actually really attracts recent immigrants. It attracts minorities, and it attracts first-generation college students. And the success of this school is incredible in terms of placement. And if you can't get placed in a year after graduation, if you can't get placed in a job in your field, they will reimburse you they'll pay for your federal aid for a year. They'll offer you years to take another degree. They are really committed to finding places for children, they're not children, sorry, adults to work. I think the greatest honor it received, the New York Times did a study that looked at schools and looked at what they called upward mobility. And so taking students coming from the lowest 40% income range to the highest 40% income range. Right. And Vaughn College was ranked as #1.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so what you were referring to, last week, the Board of Trustees elected me to join their board as of October of this year. And I am so excited to be associated with this school, to be able to help the board and the administration, help these students.
Oh my goodness, Patty, that is so exciting. I want to say congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's an amazing honor. Patty, this is my favorite part of the show, is where we now get to ask you a personal question that's not about work. It's not about anything but you. So my question for you today, Patty, is what's something about yourself that would surprise or make your 5-year-old self proud?
So I was 6 months old when JFK ran for president. And I was 4 when he was assassinated. But in that time, while I can't say that I watched his inauguration speech because I was 18 months old, I did constantly see that section of his speech where he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And it had, honestly, it had an incredible impact on me. And I was always going to do, I didn't know the term, but public service. I was called to public service. I wasn't called to aviation per se, but I was called to public service. So I think the fact that I've spent over 30 years, first working in the United States Senate and then working for the Port Authority for nearly 25 years, I think my 5-year-old self would give me a high five.
To say the least. Patty, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. I thank you for having me, and thank you for caring about aviation.
For sure. Until next time.